now we are going to talk about COBIT framework. Now, COBIT stands for Common Objective of IT or Control Objective of IT, right? So, as the name suggests, right, this particular framework is all oriented on the controls which need to be put in for an enterprise IT environment, right? To make it more stringent, to prevent any kind of disruptions, like the proper governance and those kind of things. And obviously, security is part of it, right? So just to give you some more idea, let me go straight away to this model, right? So there are total 40 controls. If you count it, these are 40 controls which are defined. These controls are nothing but different type of process, right? Like for example, EDM, ensured governance framework, setting and maintenance, and all those kind of things. Then something for the management. This top one is for the leadership. It is for the governance body, and these are the for the different level of management, whatever we see. And by the side, in as a vertical, this thing you can see things which are kind of related to monitoring. How do you monitor that? How do you find any gaps into that, and how you report, and those kind of things will come here on the right side. Okay, so that is how this entire big picture of this says. Now you might be wondering, what are these terms? EDM, right? EDM stands for evaluate, direct, and monitor. That means it is the responsibility of the leadership, that means your governance body, to evaluate what? Evaluate your security posture, evaluate the risk, right? And then based on that, direct the team. When it comes to direct, that means setting up those policies, frameworks, and everything, so that people are directed into one way as per the objective of the company, right? And also have an oversight of the entire different functions or different controls which are implemented for your enterprise IT. So that is where we call it as EDM, right? Next one, you might be hearing APO. That is align, plan, and organize. So this is the role of your senior management. They will take their directions from the governance body, and then they will go ahead and align to their objectives. They will plan how these goals need to be achieved, and then they will organize, like setting up roles and responsibilities, those kind of things, and organize the particular plan. That is what is the role of the senior management. Then, as and when we need to make some controls, or we need to implement some controls, either you can build it, acquire it, or once you are done with building it or acquiring it, you are also responsible for implementation of those controls, right? Just like program requirement definitions, organizational change, IT changes, change management, and all that thing will come here, right? Also managing configurations and those kind of things, right? Then comes DSS. That means deliver, service, and support. So these are the people who will be into delivery, and there will be some process, some controls which they need to follow as part of the delivery. All that will come here, like operations, service request, how do we handle it, how to do problem management, how to make sure that continuity of business is maintained at all times. So those kind of controls will come here. And finally, you see a vertical tower here, right? Which says monitor, evaluate, and assess, right? Monitor, you need to keep on monitoring the performance of all these controls which are implemented. You need to evaluate the risk, right? And assess, do regular assessments. That means your audit and those kind of things. So this is how these 40 controls, they actually go and explain COBIT for you. How in a very structured manner, you can organize controls around your IT. So that is what is COBIT all about. But This is not something we are going to see in our exam. In our exam, there may be few questions related to this COBIT 5 principles or COBIT principles. So COBIT has evolved over time, right? It has done complete evolution, and then the current earlier it was COBIT 5. Now it is COBIT 2019, recently updated, and there are some principles. There are some principles, COBIT key principle we call it. Okay, so first one is provide stakeholder value. That means you need to implement all those controls with a objective that you are going to provide value to your stakeholder. If you remember correctly, yesterday we spoken about what are these values. Benefit realization, right? Risk optimization and resource optimization. So to do all that, you need to implement control to make sure that those kind of values are delivered to your stakeholder. That's the principle number one. Principle number two talks about holistic approach. So this means that your controls or whatever you are implementing to enhance the status of your controls for your IT, they has to be thought in from a holistic perspective, not in silos. You have to think the bigger picture and then align to it. That is what this principle says. Whenever you are implementing control for IT, like for example, you are implementing change management. So this change management, how it is tying up to meet your objectives is what? It should be uniformly implemented on different parts wherever it is, right? Wherever IT is there. So you need to make sure that there is a holistic approach which is taken. And the next one is governance distinct from management. This is very interesting, right? So no other framework will explain it so neatly, right? That is what COBIT explained it. It says the role in governance should be different from management. There has to be a thin line between them, because management is all about taking direction from the governance and then implementing it, right? If the same person who is there into this part, if he is also into this part, that means your governance, then things may not be taken care that great. So there has to be a separate roles and responsibilities defined, what we do in governance and what we do in management, right? Then there is another principle called as dynamic governance system. That means what? Now, your IT landscape keep on changing, right? There are new systems which are coming in, there are older systems which are going out, there are new solutions being procured or developed or implemented, right? So your governance system is not a one-time thing. It has to be an ongoing activity, and you need to have a constant monitoring and constant due diligence done on the IT controls, right? So you have to think it from that. It is a dynamic governance system. Your governance system should not be rigid. Your governance system should be flexible enough to accommodate any changes, so that it works perfectly in your company. Then next one is tailored to enterprise need. Tailored to enterprise need. That means what? Now in COBIT, there are so many controls and so many guidance defined, right? You don't need to, like, if you need to get compliant with COBIT, you need to 100% go and follow all these controls. You can take a control, customize it as per your need, and implement it, and have a proper justification of this. So you can tailor-made those principles or those controls as per your organization need. That is what is being said. And the last principle here is end-to-end governance system. You have to think end-to-end. Nothing should be incomplete. When you are implementing configuration management, take configuration management, have a holistic picture, and implement it end-to-end. Should not be something you put in silos and then forget. Right? So COBIT actually covers everything end-to-end. You need to define those controls, think end-to-end. What is where I am implementing and what I am getting it. And every business function, anywhere enterprise IT is involved, you need to have those controls. So these are the 6 key principles of COBIT.
Hello, sir. Can we go with the 4th one once again, please?
4th one is dynamic governance system. That means dynamic. It is your governance system is dynamic. It is adaptable to changes because your IT controls itself and the IT landscape itself, it keeps on changing. There are changes on a day-to-day basis. Your governance system should be flexible enough to accommodate any kind of changes.
Okay.
Make sense?
So yeah, definitely, sir. So if which type of questions can we expect from this COBIT framework? Is it they're asking straight away principles, or they will be
mostly principles? Mostly principles is what I see, because they are not going to deep dive into any further.
Okay, so it will be a straightforward question.
A straightforward question, because this is not an COBIT exam, right?
Yeah.
That's what. So these are the 6 key principles. Along with this 6 plus 3, we have 3 framework principles. These are called as framework principles. So this framework principle defined on what principles the COBIT framework has been designed. COBIT 2019 has been designed. So it is based on conceptual model. That means everything which is defined here is based on concept, through a well understood concept over a period of time, but it is not a solution. It is not a solution to a particular problem. It is a high level guidance based on concepts, but it is not a solution to a particular problem. You need to find out that, like, implement it, and there will be different type of use cases and challenges which will come to you. Don't fix that you have implemented COBIT, so they will automatically fix it. Because every company risk profile is different, every company infrastructure is different. You need to take it as a conceptual model, not as a problem solving model. That is what it says very clearly, kind of disclaimer you can say, right? It is open and flexible. That means open means you can have COBIT 2019 plus ISO 27001. You can implement it with the NIST framework. You can do it with SOC 2 Type 2, whatever, like framework, whatever you want to implement. It is open to get adapted with that. It's a framework principle. That is why we call it as framework, right? It is prepared in such a fashion that it is compatible with other frameworks as well. And whenever you need to also implement COBIT and some other framework, it doesn't create problem for you, right? And it is flexible as well, right? It is not that you implemented COBIT, you need to implement all different those controls 100%. You can customize them, you can optimize them, and you can use in your enterprises as per your requirement. That is what it says, open and flexible. Then the third principle says align to major standard. So that means this COBIT 2019 has been framed in such a way, Automatically, if you align with COBIT, you are getting aligned with all major standards by itself. Automatically, because it has been so nicely defined, all best practices being mixed into this and then made a framework. So these two slides is what you need to understand.